Hi, Vincent.
Hello. Why did you want to stream? Nobody comes here anymore.
I sort of feel that it would be a good way of keeping in touch with the people who still watch me on YouTube.
Yeah.
And well, you never know, right? And I think people behave in a slightly different way on YouTube. Maybe
Yeah,
they.
no, I know, but it's just there's less traffic and also it's so much harder to get people to come on and discuss and that kind of stuff.
But the thing is, they completely derail the conversation. Like what's his name? Sigma
Sigma?
Trilactic. Yeah, I mean, like, well, in the end, it became about putting down your pet, and then asking whether we prefer to be, to know if we're going to be executed.
Yeah, which I
Um,
thought was a ridiculous, and he's trying that, people would just find that creepy if people were just executed without their knowledge. That sounds like some creepy, like weird weird thing that I would be creeped out by. I'd rather know than just, be one day gassed in my chamber with odorless, tasteless gas without knowing I was dying. You know what I
or
mean?
what
Like,
you've done wrong. Well,
well,
that's
no,
that's the most objectionable thing that
well,
I
no,
found about it.
you knew what you did wrong, but you didn't know if you had the death penalty or not.
No, but the thing is, people need to know, like, well, if you do this terrible thing, you're going to die, or people need to know. Right? I mean,
Well,
it's just
he said that that's revenge and wanting people to suffer and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. You do. I mean, retribution is part of justice, isn't it? I mean, there's more than one element to it, which is okay, retribution. Um, oh, I forget reparation, deterrence. There's sort of more than one reason for these penalties, but the whole idea is that if it's a really terrible thing, um, there will be a terrible penalty. And it's only fair to tell people in advance that if you're gonna go around killing people, you're gonna get killed yourself. I mean,
Well, yeah, I
I
know,
don't
but they
know.
thought this was cruel. They thought that this was cruel to allow someone to sit in prison knowing that they had a death date. And they said it was much more. And then that stupid shit about diffusing responsibility. So he said all of society is responsible for a murder. We're all responsible. And so, because I said, what I brought up was okay, the person we were talking about leading someone into a room to their death without telling them that you were doing it. And I said, couldn't that affect the mental health of the person involved in this? Couldn't that? So you're deceiving another human being to their death. You're deceiving, you're making up a reason. You have to lie to them and then kill them. So that might cause like mental health issues. And he said, well, you need to diffuse responsibility because we're all responsible and it's about being responsible. And, the only person that needs to be responsible for a murder is the murderer himself. This idea that, we're all responsible is retarded.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, people have to be responsible for whatever they did, and I just thought it was really weird, and obviously not fair. People need to be told that if you exceed the speed limit, this fine is going to be this thing, and not the death penalty or whatever it is. Right? You need to know what the law is. You need to know what the penalty is, and knowing the penalty gives you an idea of how society feels about the thing that you've done or are thinking of doing, right? And then people can have another think about it. And this idea that, oh, it's so terrible, sitting on death row, but people on death row, they still make friends, they still watch TV, they still eat food, they might have sex with their fellow prisoners, you know unless they're all on their own. And then you question um, the cost of keeping somebody like that. I mean, who is paying? And what about, the victim, or the loved one of the victim you killed? Shouldn't you think about how, that person might feel if somebody killed, your entire family, and Christmas comes, and that the killer is probably going to get, you know, some nice Christmas meal, and you're the one thinking, last year my family was with me, kind of thing. Anyway, I guess what I like about YouTube is that we have the space to discuss these things without people just coming in and just disrupting the conversation.
Hmm. Well, yeah, no, I found it rather odd, and I don't know. But anyway, this I've been experimenting more with this ethical pluralism. So if your listeners aren't, go to scientificnordicpaganism.blogspot.com, and you'll see it's just the philosophy of the psychiatrist named Matilda Ludendorff. She tried to make a scientific, rational religion, and she failed in some places. But I just asked AI to correct it and make it scientifically and metaphysically sound. And I'm on the third religion that's been created out of that so far, this ethical pluralism. And it's difficult to understand, I'll admit that. That doesn't mean it can't be gobbledygook, because AI is making it.
I think you are making an idol of AI, and just to let
No,
you know,
I
which may
smarter. Okay,
the
admitting that something is
five people are watching now.
okay, admitting that something is smarter than yourself or other people is not worship.
Yeah, you're kind
Admitting
of
that something
talking.
No, admitting that something is more competent than you in certain aspects is not worship. Yes, when it comes to information retrieval, and I could never write a religion myself. I don't know enough about metaphysics. I'm not, that's a weak point for me. I'm not a metaphysician. I don't have any of these types of expertise at my hand. So I'm using a tool that I know is able to do it. That's not worship. Using a machine is not worship. Okay, that's like
No,
saying that's like saying using a tractor, saying a tractor is better than doing everything by hand. You're worshiping the tractor. You're not worshiping a tractor. You're using a tractor because it's able to accomplish things that you cannot on your own.
yes, I know all that, but what you seem to be saying is that there might be people prepared to adopt your religion.
No, it's not
Right?
my religion. It's not my religion. I didn't convert
Okay,
to
well,
this
it's
religion.
even more,
Okay,
dissociated from you.
it's not. No, that's not the point. The point is that it's not an irrational, unsound, absurdist ideology. It's able to explain itself and its ethics and its cosmology and everything. It's able to give coherent explanations that are a little bit complex. I'll admit that, but they're not. They cannot be nonsensical. This cannot be nonsense just because it takes me a few times to read it to start grasping it. There's certain things I still don't grasp. I don't understand how affirming truths is anyway going to give you some kind of timeless state, or even I want to ask it how this would how you could use this to alleviate depression and find meaning. It talks a lot about meaning and fulfillment, and I'm
No,
trying
but
to.
Vincent, surely it's already here. What you
No,
are trying to
okay. This is an
replace.
alternate. This is okay. It's an alternative. It's something else works. I mean, it's just okay. It's not your way is not the only way that works. There's another way that works,
But
and
you
it's
don't
able to.
understand the
Well,
mechanics of the
okay. I'm
Abrahamic
Yes,
God.
I'm
I
learning.
didn't
Just
think you
because.
do.
Okay. Just I'm learning it first of all, and yes, I admit I'm very weak at metaphysics. I admit that. I
You
admit
don't
that I'm
have
not.
to. I don't
Okay.
know why
I'm
you have
not
to
a.
talk about
Okay.
metaphysics
I'm
in
not.
this sort of mysterious way.
No, it's not mysterious. It's a very concrete religion. It's very ethical pluralism is very concrete. I mean, just because I admit I have a weakness when it comes to philosophy, and there's other people that could pick these things up quicker than I can. I'm very, very, very unlearned in philosophy, and my mind just naturally does not go into these highly
I'm happy
abstract.
to explain it to you, and I
No, I
believe I
no,
have,
Claire.
but
That no, Claire.
you're not accepting it.
We've heard your way 100 times. This is just. I'm just saying AI created an alternative way that's able to answer all your questions. Maybe they're a little bit difficult, but that doesn't mean it's not true, and that doesn't mean some people like more complex answers. Some people like more, complicated, and it's just it's just I don't think you could disprove what it's saying if you read it. I don't think you could, say, well, this is false and that is false and this is false and that is false.
Look, what people can do if they wanted to create a moral system would be, I think the law should be A, B, and C. And then if they
Okay,
have more people, if they have more
we
people saying, yeah, we agree with you, oh, great savior, well, we're going to come and take over the world, then that
why do you
person
need
will
a
win.
savior? Yeah, there is no
Well, because
savior, and
people are afraid to die. They're
okay, there's
afraid to
no
be
okay, there's
victims of
no
injustice.
okay, that doesn't mean you need a savior. You can,
Yes, they
okay,
do.
no, you don't need a savior. Okay, so ethical pluralism has an ethical system that arises intrinsically from its metaphysical
Okay,
principles.
then be a Buddhist
Okay,
then.
no,
Why
I
aren't you a
no,
Buddhist?
because I critique Buddhism. It's not the same as Buddhism. I don't want to be a Buddhist. It's different
Why
from
not?
Buddhism. It's different from because the Buddhism basically says that it comes from nothing and
Hinduism. It's
no, okay,
codified Hinduism.
we're not okay. This is a different religion. We're not I don't want to talk about Buddhism right now. So it's able to come up with ethical principles: no murder, no exploitation, no forced labor, no
But, but,
theft,
but
no
that's
rape.
reciprocal, right? It's like,
Yeah,
if you
okay,
don't
it's
want to be
able
murdered or stolen from, then don't do it to
okay.
others. Yeah,
Okay,
that's it. Okay. There's nothing deep about that.
no public misinformation. Yeah, I'm not saying that they're like totally deep, but it could have. I didn't ask it to make a religion that outlawed murder and theft. I told it to make a scientifically and metaphysically sound religion. That doesn't mean that the religion had to answer the question of murder and theft. Still, out of its metaphysical principles, without even asking it to make the metaphysical principles that way, you were able to juice no murder, no theft, no rape, no this, no that, no extortion, no blah, blah, blah. All these things that you're not supposed to do. I mean,
Yeah,
it
which
comes up.
people will think, oh, yes, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That,
So
that okay.
what's wrong with a religion where the metaphysical principles intrinsically lead to no murder?
Well, because we've already got these laws in place, right?
Okay, but no, but what's wrong? So what if people just adopted ethical pluralism and you weren't able to disprove it, and they said no murder, no theft, no extortion, no adultery, these different kinds of things? I mean, what are you going to say? I mean, I know you're just going to say, oh, sexual morality, but besides that, besides your criticism, because it said that, premarital sex and homosexuality are not necessarily absolutely in every single case, immoral. But besides that one issue that it didn't agree with you on, what's your problem with it?
Okay, I keep explaining to you that there is no point in coming up with a new religion that
Okay,
basically repeats what we
I
already
didn't.
have.
Okay, well,
So what do you
okay.
mean by
Well, what if you don't
metaphysically?
want prophets or saviors? What if you want a legal system that doesn't depend on divine revelation, saviors, prophets, things like this? What if you just want a metaphysically sound religion that leads you to believe in no murder all by yourself, without revelation?
Shouldn't you already believe in that already?
Okay, but this religion forces you to believe it. If you were an adherent of this religion, you wouldn't murder somebody. And you don't need to believe in a Quranic story. You don't need to believe in fairy tales. You don't need to believe in any of these different kinds of things. A savior, a god, a this, a that, a prophet. None of this applies.
Yes, but don't you understand that the reason why God is necessary is that people are afraid to die. So
Okay, it
if
does.
you tell
Okay.
them that God will give them immortal, created them with immortal souls and will, send them to the right place according to their behavior when they die, then it becomes less illogical. That's how
What do you mean less illogical? You don't know that they're going anywhere when they die.
No, but okay, I've said it so many times,
Okay, so
it
I don't
just
need to
goes
make this
above your
religion
head.
doesn't make
Why don't you
anything.
try and understand what I'm
No,
saying instead of
religion doesn't.
thinking you
Okay,
already
okay.
do?
Ethical pluralism doesn't make anything up like that. It doesn't tell you that there's necessarily an afterlife where you're going to be served by waitresses and waiters and have attractive people around you and
Okay,
soft.
so there are already laws forbidding murder. So what need is
Okay, well, I'm
your
just
religion
saying.
is
Okay,
redundant.
that doesn't come from a religion. All I'm saying, if someone adopted ethical pluralism, they would basically be a good person.
Yeah, so we don't need your ethic. Okay,
Okay,
what
okay,
is
but
this
yes,
pluralism
if
thing?
there's some people, if there are some people who cannot bring themselves to believe the Quran was divinely revealed, yet at the same time they want to live in a civilized society, this is an option for them.
Well, they already kind of live in a civilized society, but it's
Oh, not by
declining.
not by religion. Okay, this is a system that you can adopt as your spiritual guide that outside of secular laws gives
Who
you
is
the
your guide? AI is your
impetus.
guide.
No, the intrinsic way that the religion is put together is your guide.
And it's put together by AI,
Okay,
who
and
has
can you prove it's
improved
wrong?
on the
Can you
religion of this woman,
Matilda Ludendorff,
Ludendorff,
can you can you disprove it? Is what's your problem with it? I mean, so what if people believe in ethical pluralism, they don't murder and don't kill and don't steal and don't
okay, I'm
extort?
just asking you, what is the point of it? You know, it's sort
Okay,
of
the
like,
point is, so I
okay,
told you what the point. The point is that if someone cannot bring themselves to believe Quranic narrative and cannot bring themselves to believe in prophets, saviors, and the voice of God, then this is a viable alternative, and it'll
okay,
give you an
so
ethical
you're going to
system.
be adopting this religion
No,
then?
I'm not. No, it's not my religion yet. I haven't adopted it. I'm just explaining it. And if somebody wants to adopt it, they can. I mean, I have to learn a lot more about it. I have to
I mean,
study
you're
it.
actually admitting you're just making it up as you
No,
go
I'm not
along.
making it.
So
No, AI.
why?
No, I'm not making it up as I go along. I'm reading what AI has taught me. I'm not making anything
Okay,
up.
is there any new stuff for you to read?
We can ask it questions, but the point that's the point. The point is if you cannot believe in Quranic narrative, revelation, saviors, prophets, these different kinds of
So
things,
it's obviously
afterlives, if you're unable to believe in these things, yet you still want to live an ethical and moral life, it's an alternative.
well, you just don't kill and steal and rob and rape. So
But this gives you spiritual fulfillment at the same time, and that spiritual
no,
fulfillment is
the
that.
spiritual. Okay, what do you mean by spiritual fulfillment?
Okay, it does talk a lot about fulfillment, and I'm still I'm still learning how that works. But I know that I know it's not teaching me nonsense. I know it's complicated, but just because I'm not a metaphysician and I'm learning this slowly doesn't mean I don't think it's garbage. AI didn't
Okay,
teach.
what is spirituality then?
Okay, hold on. Let's ask it. Let's ask it. I know it's going to be too complicated for you to understand, and then you're just going to dismiss it, which is not what I do. I don't just dismiss things because I don't
I
understand
am
them.
asking you questions which I think are important because,
Okay, well, I'm going
in
to ask
my
it.
view, spirituality is a good feeling that you get when you think you're following your religion properly.
Okay, well, that's a
So
subjective.
you feel good and you feel safe and you feel protected by God. I suppose you
Okay,
can say by
That's
your
that's your
essences or
subjective.
whatever.
Okay, that's your subjective definition. Okay, that's how you define spirituality, and not everyone defines it that way. But I want to see how ethical pluralism relates to the topic of spirituality, which I'm going to do in a minute. Hold on. Okay. What does ethical pluralism mean by spirituality if it addresses this question at all? Okay, hold on one second. Okay. Hold on. I know what you're going to say, that that it's complex, and so therefore you're just going to dismiss it. But it can't be. It can't be rubbish. It can't be like metaphysical
Please read
jargon.
it. I'm going
Okay,
to.
well, what's it? What's it? Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I'll be able to read in a minute. I'm just setting it because I post it on my website every time that I ask it a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Grok didn't work. Hold on. I have to refresh it. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, this is long and complex.
Hmm.
Okay, but just because something's complex doesn't mean that it's wrong, bad, um, you
Well, if you want
know.
people to believe it, they
Okay,
have to
but
understand it.
okay, well, this would be for people who are metaphysically equipped to understand. Like, this would be something that, you couldn't be weak in this subject and become part of this religion. But if you're strong metaphysically and this is the way that you're able to think, this might work for you, especially if you can't believe in divine revelation, prophets, and saviors. If that seems like a bit too much of a stretch for you, then and you're metaphysically inclined, then what's wrong? What's wrong with that? If you understand it and it makes sense and it's not complicated to you.
Well, even atheists have to acknowledge that religion, if created by man, had a purpose because nothing is created without a purpose.
Okay, well, this religion was obviously then also created with a purpose, to define ethics without, you know, end
Without
goals.
God.
No,
So, but
well, no, I didn't ask it to remove God. I said to make it metaphysically and scientifically sound. I didn't say make it without God. I never said
okay, but
that.
what does it? But you must have said something because that's why it's talking about essences rather than
Well, I said
the
plural essences, but
supreme essence.
an essence doesn't need to be theistic. I didn't say non-theistic
Yeah,
essence.
exactly. You have basically told Grok
No,
not to
I
create
told it an essence. An essence can
in
be God. No, an essence can be God. So if I said essence, it doesn't necessarily preclude theistic versions of God. It chose to make a non-theistic religion. I didn't ask it to make a non-theistic religion.
because Ludendorff, what 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 was her thing? She didn't believe she didn't believe in an afterlife, and she didn't believe in a
She
supreme.
believed she believed in she I think this is a little bit difficult for me to understand, but they talk about something called pre-death immortality, which is a state of mind that is attained by understanding these, well, in this case, and well, understanding what she was talking about when it came to God. It would create a sense of well-being and timelessness in this life rather than another life. So it was about achieving fulfillment now, by adjusting the way you interpret reality, which I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding. But this ethical pluralism it is, you find fulfillment through aspiration, affirmation of these truths, which I'm still trying to figure out how that helps you, because even if I affirm pluralism, it doesn't necessarily alter anything in me, but it obviously must be able to alter things in certain people, like what's his name, Sigma Trialectic. I don't know how he stays out of depression with his ideology, but he does. Somehow it works for him. And he is much more, look, Sigma, as much as I don't agree with him in things, he knows a lot of these terminologies and ideologies and ways of thinking about reality that are just beyond my grasp, that are just beyond my grasp. And, you know, and he's able to experience things that I cannot experience because I do not have the capability, knowledge, penchant for that kind of thinking. I just don't.
He's just a theoretician and a sophist, right? So you know, he's very creative of thinking of, you know, reasons why or why not about some very theoretical thing. And if what you're trying to do
But who
is
said it's
literally,
theoretical? Who said it was theoretical? How do you know it's theoretical?
well, we're talking about ideas. Ideas are theoretical, aren't we? We're talking about words like spirituality and morality and that kind of thing. So I'm these are these are theories, aren't they? And why are you doing you're doing it because you want to reject the Abrahamic
No,
religions.
I just asked it to correct Matilda Ludendorff's religion to see
Okay,
what
so
it would give
Matilda
me.
Ludendorff is fundamentally an atheist, is she not?
No, no, it, well, this gets complicated. She believes in God living, but it's a different, she didn't say it was an essence. I don't know if it's theistic or not. It's a a power. It's a single all-encompassing power
Okay, so
that has a will, that has a will. So it's not a will-less power, and if it has a will, it must have some kind of sentience.
so she rejects the Abrahamic God. What are her reasons for rejecting the Abrahamic God?
I would have to ask a lot of AI questions. I'd have to feed it her book again and then ask it questions, which I can do. Um, let's
Well, I'm
just
sure
ask.
Grok
Okay,
can,
let's
can
just
answer.
okay. Let's hold on one second. Let me just see something. Okay, hold on one second. Oh, there was a definition of God. Hold on, I have it on the website already. Definition of God. Okay, I know this is. I do have a definition of God. So, blah, 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 blah. In our ideology, God is not an external anthropomorphic deity dispensing grace or judgment, nor a mere metaphor of natural processes. Instead, God emerges as an immanent, pervasive essence tied to the evolutionary unfolding of the immortal will and realized consciously through human soul work. Definition of God in Matilda Ludendorff's philosophy. In Matilda Ludendorff's ideology, God is the timeless, spaceless, and purposeless essence inherent in all existence, manifest as the immortal will that evolves from the primal drive of life into the conscious potential of humanity to embody divine consciousness. God is not a personal creator or external judge, but an immanent unity, a pantheistic reality pervading the cosmos that becomes fully actualized only through the human capacity to realize God living, a state of perfection achieved by cultivating the four divine wishes, goodness, beauty, truth, and wise love, hate. This divinity is both the source and the goal of existence, expressed in the natural harmony of the universe and the aesthetic ethical striving of the soul, transcending material utility and religious dogma to reside in the eternal now of human consciousness before death. So this before the spirituality is, if well, in her religion, which is not ethical pluralism, spirituality is attaining this state of mind perfection pre-death, right? where you experience timelessness pre-death. Now, I'm trying to grasp what that is, but it's it's a little bit different in ethical pluralism, but somehow, and I'm, once you come to understand what's going on, it is supposed to give you this sense of fulfillment, which I will admit I don't understand it enough yet to get that sense of fulfillment, but I can understand. Look, people talk about how Mark Twain talked about how even though he didn't like Christian Science, how it gave its followers um, this peaceful
Peaceful,
disposition,
easy feeling.
this peaceful, easy disposition and feeling inside of themselves. And he said, even though he thought it was a false religion, it still created a sense of fulfillment and peace in its followers. Now, ethical pluralism is not based on pseudoscience like Christian Science was. It's more scientifically and metaphysically grounded. And, I will admit Christian Science is hard for me to understand, though I will admit this. I did go to a Christian Science church. I have a blog called hinduchristianscience.blogspot.com, and it discusses the similarities between Hinduism and Christian Science and the non-reality of life. But in Christian Science, I went to a Christian Science church and I learned about how to interpret matter. And on my way home, I was thinking about it very deeply, and I actually let myself believe it for a second. And all of a sudden, I got this very deranged feeling like I was on drugs, and I thought that I could walk through walls and stuff. Now, had I continued to believe that, I could understand that drug feeling. It did feel like I was on drugs. I can't remember what I was thinking at the time, but I just came to the logical conclusions of Christian Science and I felt a high. So people in Hinduism have also described this. I don't understand these transcendental states that people get into, but many of them become elated for some reason. There's lots of people that are attracted to Hinduism because it has a manic effect on the brain. Just believing these things gives you kind of like a high, and maybe wonder about the world. It's almost like you're on drugs. So I'm sure ethical pluralism could do the same thing, where you achieve a high in this life rather than the next life. And it's not anything that anyone could take away from you. The only way that anyone could take that high away from you is if you went brain dead, and that wouldn't matter then. I guess if someone bashed you over the head and you no longer had your cognitive faculties, you'd lose it. But you have this pre-death immortality that no one can steal from you. So you feel
Don't you see it's a contradiction, pre-death immortality?
well, you experience timelessness prior to death. So, which I'm trying to understand, that can't be like a nonsense claim, because I mean, or if it is, at least even what's his name, Sigma Trialectic was talking about this. I don't understand it, like having a greater sense of your reality and these different kinds of things that are very difficult for me to understand. But the point is, the point would be to take this truth, make it your own, achieve pre-death fulfillment, worrying about achieving a sense of timelessness pre-death. And also, just by believing these, you would naturally develop an ethical system against things like murder and theft and rape and robbery and these different kinds of things. So it kind of takes care of everything. It's fulfillment. It's fulfillment in this world. And yeah, and by staying in that state, you stay high and you stay ethical.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see the problem with that.
Well, so what you are saying people want is for people as they live their lives to have moments of experiencing truth, goodness, beauty, and wisdom, and to make them feel that they have enjoyed enough of life to feel truth, beauty, and wisdom, and this kind of spirituality, and then And that's enough, right? That this is kind of what you're saying. It seemed to
Well,
me.
I'm saying that if you followed the philosophy and actually affirmed it as a reality, you would have a sense of well-being and an ethical lifestyle.
Yeah, but if you did believe the Abrahamic God, you think, well, I've got much more than this, fleeting sense of, beauty, truth, and wisdom,
No, it's
and
not. Well,
it's
it doesn't
all
need to be
being promised.
fleeting. It wouldn't be fleeting just by affirming it. You would stay in that, just like some Hindus stay in that ecstatic state. Like I know that some
Yeah.
people get involved in Hindu metaphysics and they stay in an ecstatic state for the rest of their life because I don't know why. It's hard for me to understand why, but it does something to you psychologically that keeps you in this ecstatic state.
Yeah, because the what meditating and yogis and
It's
that
no, it's
kind of
about the way
thing.
you think about reality. It's deeper. It's about your way of thinking, not just breathing and body movement. It's the way you process reality that gives you this high. So, it's 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 pre-death fulfillment, pre-death in this life fulfillment, and and then you don't have to make anything up. You don't have to say that there's couches and waiters and young men and women who are attractive in heaven, and you don't have to make all these things up that nobody knows is true. You
Well,
can
the thing is,
find.
people get happy just thinking of these
Okay,
things.
well, this makes you happy too. This makes you, if you sat in this philosophy and affirmed it as true, if you were had the depth, which I'm trying to get, like, I didn't even have the depth to fully understand Hinduism, but I know some other people did, and that they experienced this
This
eternal high,
transcendent feeling,
this
right?
eternal.
This
Okay, but
nirvana.
it's eternal. It lasts for your lifetime, and
But
gives you an ethical lifestyle.
people take drugs to get these feelings
Okay,
that
well,
you.
this you don't need to take drugs. You wouldn't need to be on drugs. You would just need to affirm the truth of the philosophy, and it would work.
Okay, so certain belief systems can be sustaining because they think, there's something better or they've enjoyed enough of life and feel they can let go, you know. So it helps them deal with the trials and tribulations of life.
Okay, well, I don't see why if after study, even Islam takes some study, it takes a little bit of, not everyone just like, here's the five pillars and, makes their affirmation. Like some people have to actually read all the Quran, read all the Hadith, read all the literature, learn about space time, learn about this, learn about that, and then they become a Muslim. I mean, some people actually get really deep into Islam before they actually make the plunge. And just because, I'm learning this for the first time over the past few days, you know, I'm sure that there's people who grapple with aspects in Islam. I mean, Islam is not that simple for everyone. Some people have more complex brains, more complex questions that the imams might not be able to answer correctly right away. So,
Can you think of any?
well, I didn't convert to Islam, but I know there are people that have questions about Islam that are not so easy to answer all the time. Like, is it free will or predestination? And that's not that's a complex answer, whether
Well,
it's
it's a
free
bit
will.
of both, isn't it?
Okay, well, it's okay, but just to say it's a bit of both, I'm sure you couldn't get into the technicalities of compatibilism like a philosopher could, Claire. I'm sure you cannot, teach anyone the inner workings of the nature and function of compatibilism. I know I can't.
What is compatibilism again?
Where free will and determinism work at the same time. I don't. It's very complex. It's a complex question with a complex answer, and even philosophers grapple with it. So I don't understand it. I don't understand compatibilism fully, even
It's
though I've
not
studied
crucial
it.
to our happiness, is
Yes, it
it?
is. No,
I mean,
well, okay. It's crucial. It's crucial to someone who's asking these questions who might be converting to Islam, and your answer is always just don't ask those questions.
well, I think that the reason why these people don't convert to Islam once they understand the whole thing is because they cannot imagine themselves being happy being Muslim. So
No,
yeah,
okay,
okay, I
what?
get
Okay,
it.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who might convert to Islam and has no problem with the sexual morality of Islam, but just cannot, that needs help understanding compatibilism. What's so wrong with that?
No, no, because basically people believe, if they genuinely believe, because they like the bargain, right?
Okay, but some
They're
people are
afraid to
deeper than that, Clint.
die. They want, the supreme being who created the universe to be their best friend and look after them and
Okay,
protect
but
them
not
from
everyone
being.
knows. Not everyone knows that these things are true, and not everyone is going to just.
Exactly, but they have. You must have heard of cognitive behavioral therapy. Surely
Okay,
you have
okay,
heard of it. You know how it works, don't you?
not fully, no.
Okay, so cognitive behavioral therapy is basically saying the thing that gets you really upset, like being stuck in the traffic when you go to work, well, you just have to frame it in a different way. You'll have to think, I might as well listen to some music that I like, or listen to learn a new language, or listen to this story, whatever. So we reframe this unpleasant event that we have to endure, and we think of it in a different way, and then the horror of that event that used to affect us badly is no longer a problem.
Okay,
It's that sort of idea.
why can't you do that as an ethical pluralist? Why can't
Yeah,
you do that?
because people. Okay, so the logic of it, I've been trying to tell you so many times, and you just don't seem to grasp it. It is only logical to believe that good will be rewarded and evil
No,
punished
it's not
if
logical.
if
Okay,
God
I can,
exists.
okay,
You
I
see,
will
you're
give you,
interrupting me
no,
again, because you refuse to grasp the
no,
simple
I
point.
do, no, no, no. You're the one that says it's logical. I can say that it's a nice idea. I would like to believe it, but it's
Okay,
not an,
so why
okay,
don't
it's,
you?
because I don't know that that's a fact. Maybe it
Okay,
won't
nobody
happen.
knows. You're not meant to know. The part of the
Okay, so then
bargain
drop
is
it.
that you
You
choose.
can't know. You can't know, so just
No, no,
drop
you are
it.
not supposed to know. What don't you understand? You're
Okay,
not
so
supposed
drop
to know.
it. So
You are
drop it. You
supposed to
don't,
use
Claire,
your
you don't
reason.
know. You
You're
don't know that
supposed
good
to
is
use your
rewarded
reason.
and evil
You're
punished.
supposed to use your reason, right?
No, but you don't know
Nobody
that.
knows.
You don't know.
Nobody
I
knows.
know.
But
So don't
do
discuss
you not
it.
even understand moral
So don't
reasoning?
discuss it. No, so don't discuss it because
No,
nobody
no.
knows.
Okay, so you don't know what moral reasoning is.
Yes, I do. All I can
Okay,
say is
what
it's
is moral reasoning?
okay. I can say something sounds like I personally would prefer it, but that doesn't mean it's true.
What if, and it's a case nobody really knows,
Okay,
right?
so okay, I could. So what if I say I personally prefer it? What does that mean?
Nobody really knows. Nobody alive knows whether God exists, right? Are we agreed on
Right,
that? And
right.
if God doesn't exist, we may die not knowing. Do you agree?
Yes.
Therefore, you are trying to find some kind of certainty in find in creating a low grade religion that
Who said
doesn't
it's low
require.
grade? Wait, who said
Yeah,
it's
it
low
is low
grade?
grade
Who? Why? Just
because
because
it
it doesn't
doesn't
have pro?
even promise. It promises you nothing. You can just say,
Yes, it
"Oh,
does. It
what does
promises
it
you.
promise you?"
It promises you this world fulfillment and a sense of well-being in this world if you adhere to it and you affirm its truth. It promises you this world fulfillment.
Okay, but I'm sure there are lots of Hindus who don't feel that they're being given. I guess that they have to think, "Oh, but I'm happy in my mud hut and begging in the
Well,
streets,
it
and people
depends
looking down on
if
me."
okay, well, if they are able to enter this transcendence state, which some Hindus are able to do, then they would have pre death fulfillment.
Okay, so they have to reframe their situation in a positive
That's not
way,
how you
which
do.
is
That's not
why
what
I'm
it does.
talking about
No, that's a different.
cognitive behavioral
No, they don't need to
therapy.
reframe it a different way. They just need to think about reality in a certain way. And yes, some people who are smart enough and understand metaphysics enough to grasp what Advaita Vedanta is about, yes, they enter these ecstatic states and stay in them.
And this is what you want to experience too, is it?
What's wrong with experiencing heightened pleasure?
Because it's It could be based on a lie. It could be drug
Why?
induced.
What's law? It could be, but what's? I mean, it's not drug induced. So how? It first of all, I don't think you can disprove ethical pluralism, and yours could be based on a lie too. Anything could be based on a lie. But okay, so this is something you don't necessarily know it's true, but it gives you fulfillment in this world and makes you an ethical person. So it can't be that far off. It can't be that bad.
You want to choose, or one would want to choose the best system,
Okay,
right? And
and
it's
how do you
only
know
if
ethical
you
plural?
choose the
What
best system that you think, right,
and
at least
how do
I'm
you know
doing the
Islam
most
is the best
sensible
system?
thing.
Okay, well maybe Islam is like maybe atheism is spreading in Saudi Arabia and Iran because people can't bring themselves to believe in prophets and divine revelation. Okay, divine revelation and saviors.
It's only because their government isn't doing it right.
No, okay,
All
well
it
no,
requires is for um, some media out there to um, give me an interview and ask me how it's going to work and
why you're an agnostic?
treat me
How
with respect.
you're
And
not even a Muslim? How are you going to make people Muslim when you're not even a Muslim?
I'm not making anyone Muslim. I'm just explaining the
Okay, so how are
theory
you
of the
going to stop?
Abrahamic
How
God
are you going to stop the spread of atheism in Saudi Arabia because people can no longer believe in prophets, saviors, and divine revelation?
by tackling it in the worst country in the world, i.e., America, because all this confusion and anger
How are
and
you? How are
hatred is
you
coming
going
from
to?
your
How
country.
is secular Quranism going to help people to believe in prophecy, saviors, and divine revelation?
If they accept that it is the best system to
According to
reorientate
who?
themselves,
According to who?
look, there are still people, in fact, the majority of people on Earth, about 6 billion, I would say, believe in some sort of afterlife. If you add up the numbers of Christians and Muslims and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists, right? All these people add up to 6 billion people. So even if they don't, quite think that they're worshipping the same God, they believe in the afterlife because the Hindus and Muslims believe in reincarnation, which is a form of afterlife, and ultra-Orthodox Jews also believe in in reincarnation, and Christians and Muslims are supposed to believe in heaven and hell, which is another form of afterlife where good will be rewarded and evil punished. So
Okay, but
there,
if your
there is a
system is
common factor in all
okay,
these people.
okay, but if okay, yes, but if your system is repugnant to people's intellectual intellect, then people are going to say, well, I don't know if there's an afterlife. I don't really believe in these prophecies. I don't really believe in this savior. I don't really believe Jonah was in the stomach of whale. I don't believe any of these things. So, there's nothing wrong with not believing those things. Doesn't mean you're an immoral person. And with ethical pluralism, you don't have to believe in these imaginary things, and you can still be a good person.
Okay, so the important thing for you is to believe that you're a good person.
Not
What does
believe.
it
Well,
mean to believe that you're a good person? It
okay,
must mean that you are sane, that you are honest, and you are capable of reasoning.
okay. What's dishonest or unreasonable about ethical pluralism?
Because you're trying to create a
No,
system that
what's okay? What's
you already know to be inferior to the ones
How do
already
I
here.
know it's a no? That's your subjective opinion. That's your subjective opinion. At least, okay, so let's say I don't do it. Someone else reads this ethical pluralism and says, "Hey, this sounds great. This sounds good," and goes to these Muslims and says, "Look, you don't need to believe in saviors or prophets or afterlife or Jonah in the stomach of
But
whale.
they
You don't have to
want to
believe."
believe in the art. Don't you understand?
Okay, but they get a trade-off. They get this world. They get this world constant satisfaction in this world.
Well, they might enjoy family life, having a spouse, thinking they're doing the
This
right
is no. This
thing,
is not about
being
material. This is not
amongst
what you do. This is
people like
this
them,
this
going
is
to
not
mosque
this
in
is
their
not based on
Islamic community.
Okay, well, this is not something that you have to do in order to get an ecstatic state. It's just something that you need to affirm in your mind, which nobody can take away from you. You could be in jail, you could be being hung, you could be anything. Anyone could be doing anything to
Okay,
you. You don't.
martyrdom. Thank you for talking about martyrdom. So the next stage is, well, people are scared. A lot of people don't really believe in defending their religious principles if push came to shove, and if they're threatened or bribed, they might not even say what they believe to be the truth. And this means that you have to believe in what you say you believe with conviction. Otherwise, you'll be very easy to threaten. So,
Okay, well, people can if you truly believe the universe is made of irreducible essences, which somebody might try to force you to say is not. Well, you have. I mean, okay, so someone tries to force you. First of all, why would you give that up? Nobody can force you to give up something you believe is
oh,
true.
Vincent, look, okay. Your
Nobody. Okay,
ancestors, your
Claire. Nobody could.
ancestors were Europeans, meaning they were Christians, and they were treated horribly by their absolute monarchs
Okay, what does
because
that
they were
have
burnt at
to?
the stake for denying or
Okay, you
questioning the
just changed the
Trinity.
subject.
So
I
that
don't understand why an ethical pluralist wouldn't commit martyrdom, especially if okay, so they believe in this thing, they truly believe it, and it gives them something in this world. It gives them the most precious thing, which is happiness and fulfillment. So why would they give that up? And nobody could put a gun to their head and say stop believing in ethical pluralism. I mean, if they believed in it, they would have a sense of well-being.
nobody would bother. You have to understand that in the times when there was an absolute monarch, when there was a practice of heretic burning, the king felt that he couldn't allow his people, his subjects, to have a different religion to him, because then they might get their god to curse him. So it
Okay,
just
what does that
wasn't
have to do
allowed.
with
So it was a terrible, terrible situation to be in, and
Okay,
that's
I
why
don't
you're
understand what
also
that has to do with.
neurotic.
I don't understand what that has to do with the subject at hand. I mean,
Okay, so we also know that certain people were burnt as heretics, and they were in a way martyrs, weren't they? Because I'm sure they weren't. I mean, they were given quite a lot of chances. Like, you better shut up about not thinking Jesus is God, because if you carry on like this, you will be burnt at the stake. You better, and maybe those people thought and thought and thought and said, well, how can Jesus be God? And if God really exists, I would know sooner rather than later if I got burnt as a heretic at the stake, because when I get to the other side, I'll know for sure whether Jesus is God or not. So I'm going to do it. That must have been why so many people actually decided to go for it.
okay, well, all I'm
It
saying is
wasn't
that
for them.
if you don't believe in divine revelations, prophets, saviors, Jonah was in the stomach of a whale, or any of that kind of stuff, if you can't bring yourself to believe it, but you want in this life happiness and you want to be an ethical person, there's a road for you.
Okay, everybody wants to be thought of as being ethical, but
Okay,
they
and
sort of
what's
know
wrong
that
with
if
no
push
murder,
came
no
to
theft?
shove, that they probably aren't going to be a martyr. That they're going to be, they're threatened with being cancelled, or having business opportunities denied them, or lose their job. They're probably not going to do it. Right, so that's why Americans talk about whether somebody's a true believer, or the free rider. And obviously, even people who say they believe in whatever belief system they're supposed to believe in, not everybody is a true believer. And obviously, the true believer has a higher status than the free rider. There will always be these different gradations and hierarchies. And this is how to understand it. And these gradations and hierarchies help us to work out who deserves to have a higher status. How can you, trust a liar? you've just had an election. Okay, so it's been a year now. So you voted for Trump. You thought he was going to stop the immigration and the stupid wars. And what's he doing now? He's just, you know, cashed in his chips with the neocons. So now you are left with this horrible situation, you know, thinking, oh, we're supposed to be the best country in the world, but really, we American voters have no choice. But the only choice everybody who operates liberal democracy is choosing the lie they would rather hear, and then they vote for the person telling the lie that they want to hear, and then of course all the promises are broken. So maybe you would like a religion that stops all that lying and broken promises. And then maybe you'd feel a sense of achievement and spirituality if you're able to stop these immoral liars from lying to you and getting their way at your expense. What if these immoral liars start World War III in your name? How would you feel about that? Gone quiet. Okay, I don't know what Vincent is doing. Who are these unethical people seeking to be ethical? Well, these are liars and hypocrites, aren't they? These would be politicians. Okay, well, Vincent has gone. And I haven't got that many comments to respond to, but I hope you will find this reasonably educational. So before I go, I feel I should sum up what I thought Vincent and I were discussing. So I have been skeptical about his AI religion. You can go to his blog about Nordic paganism or something, and the AI improved religion of Matilda Ludendorff, and basically the deity in question is not as powerful as the Abrahamic God. Oh, Vincent is coming back. What happened, Vincent?
Can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Okay. What I was saying, oh God, I had a very important point to make. And that you were talking about public lying. Well, in its ethics and morals, ethical pluralism is against public misinformation. So you cannot publish false or erroneous information, or at least the government can't.
Well, I mean, this is still officially the case now, except that everybody lies.
Okay, well, no religion can stop
you have to make
lying.
people. Okay, the only way to stop people from lying is to punish people who tell lies, right?
Okay, well,
That's the only
I
way
know
to
there's
do it.
punishments for public misinformation and ethical pluralism. Yes, there's
Yeah,
punishments.
well, what if the president just got into power by telling lies and then
Okay,
he
well,
can.
then there would be repercussions under ethical pluralism, or at least there's supposed to be.
Well, nobody's afraid of ethical pluralism because there isn't an avenging God. I mean,
No,
don't you
that's
see?
after. No, that's the point. The point is that if you were an ethical pluralist, you would stop people in this world from lying, and you would put real world punishments in place.
Yeah, but you see, the system that we have now is it's all explained. It's like Donald Trump has lied himself into power. He's sold out on his principles, and punishment follows. And it could be, well, he's going to start World War III, and then the stupid Americans are just all going to suffer because then they'll just get all the blame for, voting for this terrible man who will start World War III and destroy the world and the environment and blah, blah. So, you're all gonna get the blame unless you in some way distance yourselves and say, no, I don't want to be part of this anymore. This is wrong, and you need to do something to distance yourself from something, right? I mean,
Okay, well,
it
an
would be.
ethical pluralist would distance themselves. They would punish and distance themselves from public misinformation. They would do that.
Yeah, yeah, but it's
And if
not
they
a
didn't, if they
religion.
did, wait,
It's
but
not a religion.
if they didn't do that, it is a religion. If they didn't do that, then um, they would lose their mental state because they were engaging in unethical things and essence unbalance. So, if you didn't do what you're supposed to do, you would have conflict in your inner realm and you would lose that sense of ecstasy. So people would be motivated to do the right thing.
Right. So there's a question that Deja Vu you has asked. How do you propose to stop immoral liars? You have to call them out as hypocrites, right? And then say, the Quran says people like you, hypocrites, are going to hell.
And
So
what if
I'm
they
saying
say
that
you
the
don't know
connection
that? They would just
is
say you don't.
already there. You just
They
want
would
to
say
reject
you
it.
don't know that. But what an ethical pluralist can say is that you won't have pre-death like ecstasy. You can say that, and that I'm going to stop you in this life from doing it. So there are consequences for living this kind of lifestyle. You lose pre-death timeless ecstasy. So I have to understand what that means more. But you do lose something. You are punished in this life for doing these things. Plus, there's physical
Yeah,
punishment.
you can say, oh, well, people hate you, Donald Trump, for
Okay, well, there would
um,
be a physical punishment. There would
letting
be
down your
either
base.
there would be fines, there would be jail time, there would be this, there would be that, there would be lots of things for all this.
Yeah, but not if some terrible liar has got you to vote for them and he's going to start World War III. So
Okay, well, nothing
what
can
can you
stop
as
lying.
ordinary
How
Americans
is
do
how
about
is
it?
how
Blame
is
the Jews?
okay? Islam can't stop someone from lying and getting into power. If nobody knows you're lying, if you're making false promises and nobody knows it, Islam is not going to stop you from getting to power.
Look, this is how it works. When the whole thing is working properly, you won't get immoral liars
How do you
getting into
know?
power because the whole
Anyone
thing.
can wait. How does secular Quranism stop someone from making a false campaign promise and then not fulfilling it? How does it stop someone from doing that? It doesn't.
Okay, it will prepare people for actual belief because now that there's people talk about secular Quranism, they will even inevitably conflate it with actual the actual beliefs of Muslims of the Abrahamic God who knows their hearts and minds and punishes evil and rewards good. It's like it's already there. Even atheists who deny God understand this is what God is supposed to do. All
No,
they're
well,
doing
whose
is
definition of
saying
God is
we
supposed to
don't
do?
believe in that sort of
Wait,
crap.
whose
But
definition of
if a
God?
government actually says, well, from now on, we're going to explain the spiritual benefits of believing that good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life and the next, and we're going to make it okay for people who want to believe
Okay,
in
and
this sort of
how is
thing.
that going to stop someone from making a false promise?
Because then people would try to compete with each other and say, right, so you think you're some hotshot Muslim. I know that you tell lies and you eat ham
How do you know?
sandwiches
How do you
and you
know? But
gamble
how do you
in
know?
and yeah.
Okay, what is to stop someone who otherwise lives an ethical lifestyle, however, says to the public, I'm going to lower taxes, yet that's not their intention in their heart? How is that going to stop that?
You would actually prepare your way for a creation of a more ethical and um, honest society because then people would be competing each other to show how virtuous
Okay,
they
that can't
are.
stop people.
Right
That
now,
can't.
they're just boasting about how clever they are at lying and telling stupid stories and
Okay, nothing
having.
can stop a person from saying they're going to lower taxes, but that's not their intention. People might say that just to get elected. That I don't see.
Yeah, yeah, and
There's
that's
plenty
why.
of corruption in Muslim countries. There's liars that get into public
Mhm.
law and all this other kind of stuff in Muslim countries. So I don't
Yes, yes,
see.
and the problem is that a lot of these Muslims are also hypocrites, but we can start an anti-hypocrisy campaign, right? That would be the way. It's like, who is a hypocrite? He would be somebody who's always coming up with creative reasons not to follow his religious principles. Because a hypocrite is pretending to be a member of the group, but not be following the rules. So we need to basically define hypocrisy, and in order to be able to identify the people who are hypocrites by their
Okay,
behavior.
okay. Well, I don't see what's to stop someone who is not a homosexual, not a drunkard, not a gambler, none of these things, who nonetheless wants to get elected. So they tell a little white lie that they're going to do this when that's not their intention. I don't see it how it's going to prevent that.
Well, it depends on how tolerant we are about people who tell lies.
Okay,
And,
but
and,
how
and
do
it
you know
has to
if
it
somebody
has to
has
start
not?
from us.
Okay, nothing's going to. No, you cannot prove. If a person says I'm going to lower taxes, there's no way to prove that before they make an action of not doing it on the campaign trail. There's no proof. There's no way to prove they're lying.
Yes, but currently all the politicians lie. It's such an old joke. George
You
Bush
think Muslim
Senior
politicians
actually
don't
said you
lie?
can tell a politician is lying just by the fact that his
Okay,
lips are
Muslim
moving.
politicians lie too.
Yes, and that is because they are part and parcel of this corruption called representative democracy. So we need to, well, identify the problems. And I'm saying,
Okay,
yeah,
well, your
the
favorite
problem
people.
is liberalism and representative democracy and a culture of casual sex, which does lower standards of morality and standards of the competence of our ruling classes. So we need to basically do a bit of cognitive behavioral therapy, right? I mean,
by
ultimately, this
telling
is what
people to
what is
believe
required.
by telling people to believe in revelation, prophets, saviors, and that Jonah was in the stomach of a whale. That's your way of giving them cognitive behavioral therapy.
Well, by shaming them, because if you ask them,
How? So don't you look shameful by telling people things exist that you don't know exist?
no, no, I would begin the conversation by saying, you'd like to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished,
I'd like to
wouldn't
believe
you?
it. I can't prove it, and neither
Okay.
can you.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't matter, even if it doesn't exist, because if the government encourages belief in the Abrahamic God who knows our minds and hearts,
Okay, and what
then
if what if they have
the
a prop?
lying would be less. There would be fewer liars and hypocrites just throwing it in our faces that we were fools for even believing in them.
Okay, and what if the people in the government are like the people of Saudi Arabia who have rejected all these things and they're not going to tell people fabrications?
The problem with the Gulf kingdoms is that they are all absolute monarchies. And you, as Americans living in your republic, you need to understand why the founding fathers said no more of this king business. Can the kings, because otherwise the king will always abuse his power as an absolute monarch.
Okay, that's not. Look, you're saying that if there was some perfect Islamic Republican government, that people would all of a sudden all believe in revelation, prophets, saviors, and that Jonah was in the stomach of a whale.
I'm saying that the founding fathers didn't quite dare in early America to say we're going to follow the Quran,
Okay,
but
well, I'm saying
actually, the First Amendment and all this life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness thing is based on the Quran. They
okay,
didn't dare
so
say it, of course
okay,
not,
so I
because all
don't
the
think
Christians would go ape at them.
I don't see how a perfect Islamic Republican government is going to stop people from failing to believe in divine revelations, prophets, saviors, and that Jonah was in the stomach of a whale. I just don't see how that's going to prevent people from losing faith.
No, the point of the government saying, but we're going to make it okay to believe in God now, and we're
It is okay
sorry.
to believe in God now. It's okay to
No,
believe in God.
but no, because you're not doing it properly. You think God is Jesus, and you know, which is idolatry, and we know you don't take it seriously because nobody will take idolatry seriously, and it's the first commandment. So if you want to think that God is Jesus, then I'm afraid you're not taking God seriously.
Okay, nothing is stopping Muslims from believing God in their
Yeah,
way.
they're mostly hypocrites, which is why they won't
Okay, well,
actually
you
come
said
up with it.
so.
But
Okay, the
recently,
government
I've
right
noticed that
now,
they're getting quite rude about the Trinity.
your point is moot because the government is not preventing people from believing in God in your proper way right now.
Well, I mean, I've noticed that Daniel Harkicart is being even ruder than I am about the incestuous nature of the conception of Jesus, because apparently Jesus, who was also God, had sex with his own mother, and who then conceived him and gave birth to him. So it's all a bit complicated, but Daniel Harkicart is saying, the conception of Jesus was incestuous. So that's going a bit further than me. So I would use that as evidence of Islamic a lack of, well, the Islamic inhibition of being rude about the Trinity falling away, because they've just realised that they've got to really 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 make the point now, or nobody will get it. So I think there are developments, and I think you should be a little concerned about Trump starting World War III. Your reputation is going to be marred, should it happen.
Okay, should it happen? But everyone said that if he struck Iran, that World War III would happen, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, well,
And
you can say, "Oh, we'll all be dead and we won't care." But then,
that's not
how
my
would you
answer.
feel
That wasn't my
about your
answer.
your your your
That wasn't my
essences
answer.
and
You just put
stuff?
words in my mouth. I never said that. I never said what you just said. I said. I never said that.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody who died in World War III in America, if we're all going to die in a nuclear holocaust, is going to die easy. It's like, we did vote for him, didn't we? We did have this rotten
Okay.
political
Well, yes,
system that we call democracy.
you have this
We
prediction, but it
weren't
hasn't come
accusers
to.
or
Okay,
pretenders we
well,
didn't.
everybody was predicting that World War III was breaking out with the attack on Iran, and it didn't happen. So you've turned into Jehovah's Witnesses, where you make predictions that don't come to fruition, and then you just double down and make another prediction and try to threaten everybody with. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They scare everyone with predictions, and then they don't come true.
Well, we are moving as time continues closer to the end times. I mean, of
How do
course, it's
you
going
know
to.
that? How do
Well,
you
of
know
course we
that?
are. I mean, just because,
You're an
time is
agnostic. What do
linear.
you don't even believe in end times?
No, no, look, the whole idea of end times is like, if there was a creation, there's going to be an end time,
Okay,
right?
and how do you know we're near end times? What evidence do you
No, no,
have?
okay, we will be nearer end times. I'm not saying, we're not going to be, going back in time and going away from the end time. I'm just saying
Okay,
that
but we're
with
not
every
okay,
passing
but this
second
isn't
where we're
you
moving
don't know that
towards
this
the.
is close to the end, even if there is an end, which I don't know that there is, but if there is an end, you don't know that we're close to it.
No, of course I don't. But I mean, the way um, US foreign policy is being carried out, it's going to accelerate the decline of America, because no one will believe anything any American politician says.
Okay, well, I don't think Muslims believe what their politicians say. I know plenty of Muslims that are very unhappy with their politicians.
Yes. Yes, but because
Okay.
look, everybody is submitting to the American imperium, right? The Europeans, all the stupid war in the Ukraine thing, that they're actually paying money to buy American weaponry to attack Russia, and sooner or later Russia's going to lose patience with the stupid Europeans who only take orders from Washington and haven't got a mind of their own and don't care about their own country or their own people, because they're all being, bribed by the arms manufacturers. So this is how things are going, and I'm saying it could easily be reversed if people just sort of thought about how why so many corrupt people have got to the top. It's
Okay,
because they
and
don't
so are
care.
they supposed to look to these corrupt Islamic republics for any kind of,
No, they
information?
don't go and look at the Quran. Of course, these shithole Muslim countries don't follow their own rules. So there's
Because
always
they don't
been a
want to. Okay,
pushing
you have a
problem.
religion. You are proposing a religion that nobody wants to follow properly.
Well, nobody wants to be bound by the rules. They prefer to do what they want, right? But I'm saying
Okay, but
if
not
there
murder
are
or
rules,
steal
you
or
have
these
to
different kinds
enforce
of things.
them.
Okay,
Uh,
well, the point is that, ethical pluralism is a religion that doesn't ask you to believe in those types of things so you don't lose faith and then still
But you
get to.
never even had it in the first place. It sounds like ethical pluralism is just maybe before I die, I might have a few enjoyable
No, you
feelings
would.
of transcendence when I, feel
Okay, but
good
you
about
could get
some
a
truth
permanent state of well-being.
or
You could
beauty.
get you can get a permanent state of well-being.
Who does? Even
You
drugs wear
can.
off.
It's possible. This happens in
Who do you
Hinduism.
know
People.
has well,
I know.
apart from
I
the
know.
Buddha?
I know people in Hinduism who have had a permanent state of well-being because of their philosophy.
So why aren't you a Hindu?
Well, because it was too complicated for me to even understand, so I couldn't obtain that.
Maybe they were just deluded.
No, well, no, it can trigger people who didn't have euphoria to get it. They weren't pre-euphoric. They weren't euphoric pre their Vedantic experience. Then they go through Advaita Vedanta and they experience euphoria.
Don't you think some idea of doing the right thing has some sort of effect
It doesn't
on
make you
your
euphoric.
sense of well-being and your
Okay, okay,
spirituality?
yes, and doing the right thing in ethical pluralism is not murdering or stealing or raping or public
But
disinformation or yeah,
but it's
yes.
also solving problems because this is what a moral system is supposed to be doing.
Okay,
It's
and
a
what
system
problems?
that allows you to avoid and solve problems, and you're just
Okay,
not even looking
what
at that
problem does
most important purpose.
what problem does ethical pluralism not solve?
It's not solving liars from getting into politics.
Why?
It's not.
There's punishments for
Well, the
breaking.
problem is nobody has heard of your religion, which you've just
Okay, well,
created.
it's so what? We're not talking about how you are just trying to attack its popularity or how many people know about it. You cannot attack it itself. You have no ammunition against ethical pluralism. You're just saying it's an
Well, it's
unpopular
not going to
religion.
be adopted.
You don't
If you
know
want to
that.
solve
You
problems
don't
now,
know
you
that.
have
You
to look at
don't
the
know
world
that.
as it is.
Okay, and you are suggesting an ethical system that asks you to buy into things that a lot of people just can't bring themselves to believe.
Well, I think they would like to avoid dying in a nuclear holocaust and
Okay, so
not paying so much
now you're turning
taxes.
into a Jehovah's Witness with prophecies of gloom and doom if people don't do it your way, and you've already made a false prophecy. So why should I believe you now?
What false prophecy have I
You already
made?
said that if we attacked Iran, we could have World War III. You were on the side of Iran. You didn't want us attacking Iran. Oh, it could blow up into all this other kind of stuff. Everybody was talking about if we attacked Iran, it could spark World War III, and it didn't happen. So
Well,
you're a false
because
prophetess.
Iran had decided, well, to keep their powder dry, I guess, and live to
You're
fight another day.
you are a false prophetess. Okay, you've made a
Well,
false.
I think, at some stage, it's possible because these people who keep letting America get away with it are emboldening America.
Okay,
So
look, the
America
only
will keep
way
advancing until they corrupt the whole world.
you're resorting to making horror prophecies in order to get people to believe in your narrative.
Well, of course, that's
Yeah,
what
I know.
people
Well,
do.
ethical pluralism doesn't need to focus on horror
Ethical
prophecies.
pluralism is not up and running.
It is up and
Never will
running.
be.
It is up and running, but that doesn't mean that it's not a viable alternative that allows you to deal with real world ethical problems without resorting to making doomsday prophecies to scare people into doing what you want them to do.
Well, I don't think the prospect of World War III is that far away.
Okay,
I
yes,
think a
your
lot.
doomsday prophecies. Yes, you already made a doomsday prophecy and it didn't come to fruition. So, you don't have a very good track
So people
record.
just carry on. I'm just saying, well, you're heading towards the edge of the cliff, and you're saying, cliff, what
Yeah, you
cliff?
said that once
And you
already.
accelerate towards
Okay,
the
well, so
edge of the
you're just turning,
cliff.
yeah, you're doing what Jehovah's Witnesses do. Make a false prophecy, make another one, it doesn't work. Make another one, it doesn't work. Make another one, it doesn't work.
Okay, but you're just saying nothing needs to be done. I'll just
No, I
invent a
didn't
new
say that. I didn't
religion,
say
and
I
I'm
didn't
going to
say
believe
nothing.
in it.
I didn't say nothing needs to be done. I said that we need to have laws against public misinformation from politicians.
Yeah, but it's not going to be enforced. Well,
How do
if
you
I
know?
said
How do you know?
no, no,
How,
no,
first of all, if people don't want to lose their ecstatic state, yes, they would enforce it. Ethical pluralists who have found that ecstatic state don't want to lose it, and that means that they need to engage in essence balance, which means not allowing politicians to lie. So unless you want to lose your ecstatic state, then you don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose your this world happiness and euphoria. So you're going to do something to prevent public misinformation.
yeah, but you see that there's no leadership, for people who want to,
Okay,
the
somebody.
divided, and you have your blue church, red church thing,
Okay,
which
I don't
is
see
so.
how that just defeats what I just said. I don't see how divided people into different blue.
Nobody's going to do anything because of the divisions.
An ethical pluralist who did not want to lose
You,
their
you,
ecstatic state would do something.
you're the only ethical pluralist,
I'm not an
if
ethical
you are
pluralist.
one at all.
I'm not one yet, but I'm just learning about it. And maybe I will become one. Maybe I will. I haven't found a problem with it yet. I'm still learning about a lot of it, but I haven't found like deficits in it.
Okay, okay. Well, we'll just carry on. Do you want to tell us more about your ethical pluralism?
No, we don't have to right now. No, well, I'm just saying that, it's you're not the only game in town, and it's very possible to create an ethical religion that doesn't rely on things that people find hard to believe.
I think most people already understand the nature and purpose of religion, and therefore the nature and purpose of the afterlife, where good will be rewarded and evil
Okay, well,
punished.
some people want to tell you that sounds like yes, and I would love to go to a luxurious afterlife where I'm waited upon by attractive people and given wine and food and plush
Mm.
accommodations. All that I would love that, but I'm not going to affirm that that's a reality.
Well, you might get this life rewards if you do it early.
Okay, well, you not if you follow ethical pluralism, you get a this life reward, which I'm interested in finding the way to do that. I'm interested in learning what does make these Vedantists become so ecstatic. What gives them that sense of euphoria? What are they thinking? Just like when I went to that Christian Science church, for a moment, I felt like I was on drugs. I could understand why somebody would want to stay in that state forever. I could understand that.
Yeah, but okay, obviously those people suffer from iatrophobia.
Okay, but
So
they're not. No, that's not the point. I'm talking about how a Christian scientist, because of their mode of thinking, can stay in a permanent state where they feel like they're on drugs. And why should they come
they
when
probably
you
have
come?
some sense of community, the way Jehovah
Okay,
Witnesses
well,
do.
the thing is that as long as they correct their thinking, they don't need to be in a community. All you need to do is read Science and Health and understand it and apply it, and you can gain a sense of elation in this life right now. And why should you, if some Muslim came up to you and said, "Oh, no, 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 that's all discorrect, and you're only going to get your real reward in the afterlife and come down out of this ecstatic state," why should anyone come out of this ecstatic state for false promises of an afterlife?
Well, you don't know if it's false, and Christian
Okay, well,
Science
you
is
lose
is
your
is, is
ecstatic
not
state.
exactly doing well at the moment, is it?
Okay, you lose your ecstatic state. Well, Vedanta is doing just well, and there's plenty of people that aren't going to leave Vedanta for an imaginary afterlife when it gives them ecstatic happiness in this life right now.
Vedanta is going to be difficult to sell to Americans, while Islam
Okay, well,
is,
not okay.
just. has all the stories, and people are already aware of you know of
Okay,
Islam,
well,
so it would be
first of all,
easier.
Vedanta is not a shrinking religion; it's a growing religion. It's not shrinking just because it's
Yeah,
not the
but
fastest.
it's Indian and not
Okay,
an
so what? It's
organized
growing.
religion.
It's growing. You don't need
Well,
Vedanta
but you
doesn't need
can't
to be.
explain it
No, yes,
properly.
yes, and a person who understands it can explain it properly. Just because you're not metaphysically equipped to understand all the terms doesn't mean that it can't be explained. Just because you're
It can
unlearned
be
doesn't.
explained by con men, yes, of
No, not
course.
con man. There's an actual system there that AI can understand and
But you
repeat. And
don't.
so what? I don't. Yes, I'm not a metaphysician, but I know if AI is able to have
It's
a
hocus pocus and mumbo
it's not
jumbo.
if AI is able to respond to it and make a concise definition of it, then there has to be something there. It cannot be
You,
nonsense.
I actually read this AI generated essay saying why it doesn't work. Do you remember that there was some months ago and you were so proud of yourself and you said, oh, AI has finally explained the downturn and why it doesn't work? Because
It does well,
it
yeah,
can't
I
be
know it's
repeated. The
no, it can
experiments
it
can't be repeated.
no, it's just my whole argument was that it's not is that there are no is that there's never been any miracles produced by Vedanta, but if there ever were a miracle that I don't know about it, then I'm wrong, right? So their response would be, well, just because you haven't seen a miracle doesn't mean Vedanta's wrong. It didn't prove that Vedanta was illogical. It just said that, its its statements haven't yet been proven. I can say that. I can say that there has been no recorded miracle, but I'm also saying that about Islam. So if I'm going to give up Hinduism because there's no miracles, then I'm going to give up Islam for the same reason. Those miracles didn't happen.
No, it's nothing to do with the miracles. It's to do with the system of morality and law that
Hmm.
gives Islam its identity.
Which
So,
ethical
so
pluralism has. Ethical pluralism has a system of
well,
laws upon.
you keep talking as if it's up and running when you know it
It
never
is up and
will.
running. It is up and running. Anyone can ask me any
Nobody
question they
else has
want.
heard of it.
Okay, well,
Right.
it's just what is it? 2 days old, 3 days old? What are you expecting?
Well, who do you think might want to run with it? Apart from
Let's
yourself,
see.
because it doesn't require you to believe in anything, and it's all bumping on the ground, and there are no promises and
Yeah, there's
no
promises of
takers.
yeah, there's promises of this world fulfillment and a sense of ecstasy right now.
Well, so a lot of nihilists can say, I can have loads of this world fulfillment by my sex and drugs and rock and roll, and
Okay, this isn't. You
my,
don't need
by
sex
my
or drugs. You
cheating
don't need
and
anything. You
speeding.
don't. Okay, you don't need anything to in order, and you don't need to be unethical to get this world fulfillment through ethical pluralism. You can be in a jail, you can be in a hut, you can be anywhere in this world doing nothing, and you can still gain this world ecstasy.
Okay, well, it doesn't sound very believable or ethical, but I won't argue any more about that with you.
I don't know why it's unethical not to murder or steal.
Well, it's already the law forbidding you from doing these things, so
Okay,
you're
well,
not offering anything new.
some people aren't religious about it, and some people aren't scared of losing their pre-death ecstatic state over stealing.
People who don't have strong beliefs and only obey the law to avoid punishment have no particular ethical.
Okay, you can lose something that is not okay. You can lose this world, this life fulfillment by stealing.
Well, lots of people have stolen, I'm sure. And they lie, and what they need to do is feel bad about these things and be made to feel bad, and for this sort
Okay,
of
ethical pluralism makes you
change
feel
to happen, you need to promote a religion that is simple but scary, right? And
okay.
and, and
Well,
when people are scared, they're more likely
okay, well,
to
that's not
listen.
okay. The only people that would take a simple, scary religion are simple, scary people, and not everyone is simple and scary.
Yeah, the government can decide that, they're going to adopt this Abrahamic religion, which has stood them in, such good stead over the centuries,
Oh,
worshipping
really?
the
Such good said.
Abrahamic
Then what?
God.
Oh, really? So we're supposed to look to all these Muslim basket case countries to say, oh, yes, this is definitely the system we want. It's so stable. Look how wonderful all these Islamic republics are.
Yeah, because the only reason why they're not being doing as well as they could be doing is because they don't follow the rules properly,
Yeah,
and they're
because and that's
mostly
the other thing. So
monarchies.
the other thing about your religion is nobody wants to follow it, and so that's supposed to be a reason to
Yeah,
adopt
nobody
it.
wants to follow rules. Of course, nobody wants to.
Okay, well,
People want
people.
to break the rules.
Okay, well, people don't want to. Generally, most people don't want to break the rule of murder and theft.
Yeah, but we already know that the crime rate is rising. That there's more murders and shootings and all kinds of things because people are going mad and they think they can get away with murder, and they do.
Well, okay,
And soon
well,
there will be war. So
under ethical pluralism, they wouldn't get away with it, and there would be people who wanted to ensure that they stayed in a state of ecstasy, so they would prevent it. So there would be these fanatical ethical pluralists that would be enforcing purity laws.
right, and you'd be one of them.
Uh,
Okay, we'll
I
see
don't
what
know.
happens with your
Well,
ethical pluralism.
I don't mind enforcing laws against murder and theft. No, I don't
Well,
mind
they're
that.
already enforced, but
You're the
it's a
one. No,
furniture. You're right.
you're the one that just said that they're not being enforced enough, and nobody is doing it. So I'm saying, so get people scared to lose their God consciousness, and um,
Oh,
you
God
know,
consciousness now. Oh,
or
well, it
whatever
sounds
it's
like you're
called.
adopting this Allah consciousness thing.
It's whatever this sense of well-being and fulfillment which people are scared to lose. It's like it would be like taking away their drugs, okay? But instead of it being a drug, it's just it's a way of living and a way of thinking. So
Mhm.
it's not dependent on you taking a pill. It's dependent on you making an affirmation of a certain thing being true, and if you just naturally believe it is true, then you're in a pretty good position.
Yeah, so most people already understand the Abrahamic God, even though if they don't actually
Okay,
believe
and
in
does
him.
that give them this world ecstasy?
Probably. I
Okay,
mean,
so I've met Hindus who have entered these states of ecstasy. I've never met Muslims who enter states of transcendence now because they believe that if they do such and such wrong, they're going to hell. I don't think that's a pre-death sense of ecstasy.
well, maybe we don't want people in states of ecstasy because then they wouldn't, notice all the bad stuff that's going on and the lies that are being told, and maybe they
Why?
won't take an interest in geopolitics if they're in a
So
state
a
of
religion
ecstasy.
okay, this religion gives you pre-death state of ecstasy, and it also instructs you to stop public lying, and you think that that's going to lead to lies.
Well, you
Okay,
need to
you would
be
have to
able to
you
expose people who are
yeah,
lying and
yeah,
punish
okay,
them
and
and
you would
say
have
they're
to
going to
actively.
hell. And the
Okay,
Quran says
now you don't need
hypocrites
to
go
say
to
they're going
hell.
to hell. You just need somebody who's scared of losing their pre-death ecstasy to stop them from lying.
Well, this idea of this pre-death ecstasy thing is not common. In
Okay, well, it's not common just because, and so maybe there could be one religion for the low dumb people and one religion for the upper class that are able to actually understand these concepts and entering this, state. But I think that would be a good way to stop your progress by getting all the dumb people to accept secular Quranism so it looked trashy, and then all the more intellectual people who have the time, energy, effort, know how to understand deeper truths would be ethical pluralists, and then who would be at the top of the government? It would be the ethical pluralists, not the trashy secular Quranists.
so you're saying that the liars will get to the top, which is just
No,
reinforcing more of the same.
no. Why are ethical pluralists liars if lying is against their
Because
religion?
you're just saying people who believe in God are stupid, and I
No,
guess
if you're
this is
saying
what
that
we
you know
need
who God,
to show the
okay,
difference
if
between
you're
your
telling,
mumbo
if you
jumbo and a simple
why is it
and
mumbo
strong
jumbo? Can you
belief.
explain why it's mumbo jumbo? Can you even explain why it's mumbo jumbo? Just because you can't understand something doesn't mean it's mumbo jumbo.
Because you don't believe in the afterlife.
Okay,
And
but I get
your
okay, but
religion it's not even a religion. It's just
it is a
something you
religion.
cooked up.
You don't need to believe in the afterlife. You don't need to believe in the afterlife for something to be a religion. The Sadducees were a religion and they didn't believe in the afterlife.
Yeah,
You
and
don't
then they're
need
extinct.
okay,
The
okay,
Sadducees are
well
extinct.
they didn't have pre-death ecstasy. So they didn't have anything to keep them in line.
No,
You
but
know,
it's only people who want to get to the other side and be in good standing with God. They will be the ones behaving themselves.
why
People who
but
think
why
that this is that you only live once and once you're dead, nothing else happens to you. They're the ones most
okay.
likely to be committing crimes and telling lies.
No, okay. Ethical pluralism says that if you commit crimes and tell lies, then you will lose your sense of ecstasy here and now. So you lose something. If you want to be miserable, steal and do this and do that and do this thing and that thing, and you don't want your state of ecstasy, then do all these things. But if you want your state of ecstasy, and which most people don't want to give up, then then don't steal, lie, cheat, rape, rob.
So
Don't do these
you need
things.
to give something. You need to create
You have
a
to make
very
something up.
scary scenario, which
Okay, it's
which you
scary to
haven't
lose your
done.
happiness. It's scary to lose your happiness.
Well, some people think, oh, I can, put up with a bit of, guilt or whatever.
Okay, well, but people who are scared to lose their own happiness would stop them. Okay,
Hmm.
it would stop them. Okay, so you have two things. First of all, you have one, people are to lose their ecstasy. And number two, other people who are scared to lose their ecstasy would stop you from engaging in this activity. So you have an enforcement mechanism. You have incentives. There's something scary, which is losing your pre-death ecstasy. So there's something to lose.
Okay, well, but perhaps you'll tell us more about this pre-death ecstasy thing that you think we already have and enjoy constantly.
No, well, I know
Hmm.
some people do. I know that there are some people who go into a state through Advaita Vedanta and Christian Science into a state of ecstasy. I experienced that. I felt like I was on drugs. I felt like I was high. I can't even explain it. And I could understand why a Christian Scientist would want to stay in that. And why should a Christian Scientist leave that state of not drug induced, mentally induced euphoria for Islam? Why?
Because Islam is probably more believable and more likely to work.
Okay,
Now,
so
I see controlled opposition. Conopsis here,
okay,
maybe he'll come and talk to you.
an ethical pluralist who is in a high state of ecstasy, and someone comes along and says, "Well, I'm going to take you out of that and give you a doomsday prophecy." Why should they? Why should they give up that sense of ecstasy?
Okay, I can't imagine myself, living in a world, in a society where all these pluralists enjoying their pre-death ecstasy,
Okay, but it's possible. I felt
doing
it
whatever.
through Christian Science. I felt it. So if let's say that I study ethical pluralism enough to get it. Now with Christian Science, I can say these things are possible because I actually have it. I understood Christian Science. It was simple enough to give me a sense of pre-death ecstasy, and it was only for a moment because I stopped thinking or believing it after a few minutes or after a moment. It was only a moment of this psychologically induced drug feeling and a sense of just yeah, like I was on drugs. Um, but if ethical pluralism, if I was able to fully understand it, and I sure I could, it's supposed to lead to that same sense of mind-induced ecstasy. If I was in that state, and some Muslim came up to me and said, "You shouldn't be in that state. You should be, listening to us about doomsday prophecies and revelations and Jonah being in the stomach of a whale, and I can't ensure that you're going to have, pre-death ecstasy, but I can ensure that you'll have a better afterlife." Why should I give that up? Why?
Well, this is so hypothetical.
No, it's not hypothetical. It happened with Christian Science. So let's say that I just kept believing in Christian Science. Let's say I actually believed in it, like not just like making it up. Like I actually, first of all, Christian Science won't get you high unless you actually believe in it. You can't fake it. You can't not really believe. If you don't really believe, it's not going to work. So if you truly believe in Christian Science and you truly believe this is the way it is, you would have absolutely no reason to give it up. Just like if I truly believe that the universe is made up of irreducible essences, then if I understand it deep enough and I make that truth my own, I will enter a state of ecstasy. And I don't have to believe in Jonah and the whale. I don't have to believe in prophets, sages, saviors, or any of these kinds of things. And why should I leave that state of ecstasy for Islam? I don't see any point in leaving that state of ecstasy for Islam.
This is so hypothetical, you know.
Why
We're
is it
talking about this
hypothetical? No, it's
magic
not.
religion
It's not magic.
that
It's not
nobody has
magic.
even heard
It's
of,
not.
and it's
It's
so
not magic. I
successful.
experienced it. I experienced it under Christian Science. These things are possible. I know they're possible.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
a possible.
People can enjoy states of transcendence. Yes, I
Okay.
agree.
Well, what if you can stay in that? What if you could stay in that and never leave it?
Well, people don't. They have to deal with, you know,
Okay, but if you're
life
okay,
and that
but
sort of thing.
if I believed in Christian Science fully, I would have stayed in that sense that I was constantly high and euphoric all the time.
Yeah, but you don't. People don't.
Okay, well, I
real
might
life
be
interferes.
able to believe in ethical pluralism. I do kind of have the sense that the universe is made up of irreducible essences. So, I mean, I have to understand other aspects of this in order to. Christian Science is easier to understand. That's why I was able to get that state of pre-death ecstasy so quickly. But with ethical pluralism, it's a little bit deeper. It's a little bit more complex. But it promises that if I totally understand it and I affirm it as a truth, that there is a possibility that I can get this ecstatic state. Which I know is possible because I've experienced it. I would like to feel like I was on drugs all day. I would like that.
Well, it's not going to happen, is it? Because
how do you know? How do you know?
Because you just made up this thing.
I didn't make it up. I made it up. I didn't make it up.
Yeah, and then you say, yeah, people have ecstatic experiences, and people think, yeah, you're on drugs. You're crazy.
You're not on drugs. Okay? Mark Twain didn't say that Christian scientists act like they were on drugs. He just said that their sense of reality gave them a peaceful, harmonious disposition, even though he thought it was wrong, even though he didn't like it. He said, well, I can see why people want to be Christian scientists. It makes you very, very, content and, okay, and a sense of eudaimonia or whatever that word is, a sense of well-being, these different kinds of things. So,
why do people want to be Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, it's different. It doesn't have.
Why do people want to be Jehovah's Witnesses? Because of the community.
No, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't offer you. They never offer you pre-death ecstasy. They never offer you. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses always tell you.
So this life advantage of being a Jehovah's Witness is your community.
Okay, there is no other advantage. There really isn't even a strong community. It's a very lonely place. You don't get really anything for becoming a Jehovah's Witness except for problems. So they don't offer pre-death ecstasy. In fact, they tell you that becoming a Jehovah's Witness will not necessarily get rid of your depression or mental illness. They don't do what other religions do and say, if you convert to our religion, your depression will go away, your schizophrenia will go away, this will go away, that will go away. They never promise that. They just promise that they have the truth and that they don't tell you you're going to be happy. They don't tell you that you're going to be this. They don't tell you you're going to be that. They just say that you will have the truth is what they tell you. Okay? They don't make any promises of elated states, of transcendence, none of that. You get nothing but a lump of problems when you become a Jehovah's Witness. You lose all your friends, you lose all your family, you get a shitty community that doesn't do anything, and you don't get anything. You don't get anything.
Yeah, but people still join and people still say.
Yeah, because they believe it's the truth. It
obviously offers them something.
It offers them what they think is the truth because they think it's the truth.
So, yeah, and obviously they like
the only reason there are no
stay.
perks. There are no perks for being a Jehovah's Witness. You just have to actually believe in it. You don't. I mean, it's designed like that.
People will make themselves believe in all kinds of things.
Okay, the Jehovah's Witness religion is designed to keep people out who are just there for something because there's nothing there for you. There's nothing
Yeah.
except for spirituality. There's nothing there for you. There's okay. They tell you not to get nice houses, nice cars, nice jobs. Live like very simple. Um, you're not allowed to have a lot of friends. There are not that many Jehovah's Witnesses, so you're not going to have a lot of friends because there's not that many of them. What about marriage potential? I mean, it's very hard to get married as a Jehovah's Witness. There's so few, and out of so few people, it's very likely that you're not going to like any of them. A person who's able to marry the whole world is going to find their soulmate. A person who's only allowed to choose from 5 people is not going to find their soulmate. They're not. It's just, if you have 5 people to choose from, and they're all slobs, what are you going to do? You just stay unmarried because you don't want to bring yourself to have sex with people you don't want to have sex with.
Yeah, but obviously being a Jehovah's Witness has enough to keep the people currently in it.
What does it offer them besides what they think is the truth? What are you getting
Yeah,
out of
people
this?
have, it's like if they like the community, then they'll be happy to
What
continue
community?
believing
What
in it.
what what community?
Well, your
They
mother's
barely.
in it.
Okay, well, there's not that. She even admits it's a lonely place. Everyone who's a Jehovah's Witness admits it's a lonely place. It is a lonely, hard, difficult place. It is not a nice, happy lifestyle. Lots of people in there have mental illness because it's so depressing.
Okay, but maybe they just don't want to admit they're wrong. How about that as an
No, they
explanation?
actually believe. It's very easy to leave the Jehovah's Witness. Who's going to stay in something that they think is wrong when they have absolutely no benefits to doing so? And if
Because they
they
don't
left,
want
they
to
would.
admit that they're wrong.
Okay, well, there are most Jehovah's Witnesses who are in the Jehovah's Witness religion have no benefits for being there and are only there because they think it's the absolute truth. It's designed to do that. It's that they don't do food drives, they don't do clothing drives, they don't feed you, they don't clothe you, they don't do this for you, they don't get you jobs, they don't do any of those things for you like other religions do. If you become a Mormon, they roll out the red carpet for you. They give you this and that, and you get a great community. And I have a Kentucky Fried Chicken I can hire you in, and all this other kind of stuff. You don't get that in the Jehovah's Witnesses. You don't get that.
Okay, so what Jehovah's Witnesses get is a sense of moral superiority,
Yeah,
I
they get a sense of
guess.
more. Yeah, they get a sense of that they're doing the right thing and that they're in the truth. That's the only thing you get. You don't get happiness. Your depression doesn't go away. Your mental illness doesn't go away. You don't get nice jobs or nice cars. You don't get physical amenities. You don't get a really strong, tight knit community. And you have less friends, less family, less marriage partners, and everyone admits that it's a lonely place where it's hard to get married.
Okay, well, why don't you become a Mormon then, since you
Well, I
admire
don't
them?
because I don't know. I
Because
admire
you
the
can't bring
Jehovah.
yourself to believe
No,
in it.
no, yes, but also because um, I think it's there's more purity when people are actually doing something because they actually believe in it rather than doing it because they get amenities.
So what about Jews?
Well, they're a different story. I mean, they get certain kind of privileges. Yes, there's a certain kind of Jewish privilege that you get with becoming a Jew. You do get a better community than the Jehovah's Witnesses do. You get a rich community, you get a smart community, you get an educated community, you get people who are at the top of government, the top of politics that can help you. There's an internal circle. They help each other get cars and money and states and governments and banks and all this kind of stuff. And there's something that comes along with being a Jew that you don't have to do anything for it. And you don't even need to believe in Judaism. You could be an atheist, homosexual Jew, and all of this is open to you. And you could have
Okay,
friends
so
who are
for
not.
Jews, it is the higher status. Everybody goes, oh, you're one of the chosen people. You must be so, super clever and super cunning and blah blah blah. Um, but whether they actually, lead a better life is, another thing. Do you remember John Gishler?
Yes, who's well,
Well,
John
I don't
Kishla.
even know what
Well,
he
now he's
is
a fake
now.
Muslim. He doesn't even really believe Islam's real, and he calls himself a Muslim.
Well, he acts like a Jew. I mean,
No,
he's always
he's left Judaism, and then when I asked him, did he believe that Sharia came from God, he said no.
okay, but he's always hated the Muslims, and he only converted to Islam to marry his wife, and I think she's left him, and now he lives in a car, something like that.
In a car?
Yeah, I think he lives in his car. So I don't even know what
Okay, well,
religion
that's
he
what I'm
is.
saying. Islam doesn't have any mechanism for, you know, okay, in Islam, obviously, this woman who was Muslim was obviously willing to marry a man who made a disingenuous conversion. In the Jehovah's Witness religion, that couldn't happen. What happened? My mother. This is the Jehovah's Witnesses deal with this differently. First of all, it's very common in the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a huge problem. The women are very chaste, and they're not running around with tattoos and being sluts and drinking and smoking. So all these worldly men on the outside who are looking for chaste, meek, mild women like these Jehovah's Witness girls. So they pretend to become Jehovah's Witnesses and convert in order to get a girl. Now that's what happened with my mother. But the difference was that when it eventually became apparent that he was just faking all of this, which, but my mother would never have married him if she knew he was faking it. Yes, a Muslim will marry another man who's just faking to be Muslim in order to, I want a husband, and I don't care if he's really serious about Islam. As long as he says the Shahada without it being in his heart, then everything is fine. It doesn't work like that with the Jehovah's Witness religion, because if you actually came out and admitted to a single soul, well, I'm only here for my wife, and I'm not actually doing it for reality, you would be disfellowshipped, and your wife would leave you.
Mm-hmm. So that was what your mother did. But then after that, your mother was still quite happy to stay within the fold of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes, she was, but what I'm saying is that it protects you. It protects you from just parasitic people who are pretending to believe for gain. There's no reason, okay, the only reason, and they don't last very long. The only people who really convert, I told you, to the Jehovah's Witness religion for gain are worldly men who want a meek, mild wife. And so they'll pretend to convert. But most of them, I've met them before. I've met men after I left the Jehovah's Witnesses. I have met Jehovah's Witness men that I've had conversations with, and they're like, look, I don't really believe in this, but I want to keep my wife happy, so I just keep my mouth shut. So, if you keep your mouth shut and nobody knows about it, no harm, no foul, nobody can say anything to you. But if, like John Gishala, if you actually came out on a YouTube video and said, well, I don't really believe the Bible came from God, then you're not really going to stay in that organization. They're going to throw you out.
Mm. Yeah, I guess Jehovah's Witnesses are stricter than a lot of other religions.
Yeah, well, it's because there's no benefit to being in there unless you truly believe it. There's no benefit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very hard lifestyle, austere lifestyle, unhappy lifestyle. It's not a fulfilling lifestyle. At least it wasn't for a lot of people. Even a lot of believers, for a lot of believers, it's not fulfilling. Their desires aren't met. Yeah, I'm sure there's Jehovah's Witnesses that would love to be tennis stars and rock stars and make billions of dollars and have nice cars and nice houses and all this other kind of stuff. And maybe they feel a little unfulfilled in their dumpy little hovels and, having low status and no friends and, that kind of thing, and having to avoid every holiday, not being able to go to any event with other people, not just because it's a demonic activity, but because they're the wrong type of people. That's a very hard lifestyle to endure.
Yeah.
That's very hard. That's not an easy lifestyle. Whereas Islam is a much easier lifestyle to endure because nobody takes it seriously. And there's no disfellowship mechanism.
Yeah, because the whole idea of Islam is that if you break the rules, there will be laws to punish you for breaking those rules.
Okay, well, Jehovah's Witnesses have that too, except it's not a government structure. They just disfellowship you out of the community. Okay, if Jehovah's Witnesses are much better at keeping their community clean than Muslims are. I don't care. So Jehovah's Witnesses don't have a government structure. So what? Who keeps their congregation clean? Who actually walks the walk? Who throws homosexuals out? Who throws drug addicts out? Who throws cigarette smokers out? Who throws adulterers, fornicators, and all these other people out? Not Muslims.
Yeah, because they're too big. Right?
That would make it even. That should make it even stronger. That should be more of an excuse to actually follow the rules because you have the manpower to enforce it.
Well, there are many lapsed Jehovah's Witnesses because it's
I know. I told you they're on inactive lists. If you're not involved, you get on an inactive list. If you commit any crime against the organization, you get disfellowshipped. So even if you just lapse and stop going to meetings, you're already on a list. Everyone knows who you are. Everyone knows that you're not attending. Everyone knows that you're in for spiritual quality. If you haven't adulterated or gotten drunk or a homosexual, you won't be disfellowshipped, but people will be like, okay, she's on an inactive list, which means that she's spiritually less strong.
Suspect. Mm.
Yeah, she's spiritually suspect. So they have a very strong mechanism to keep the congregation clean, and Islam doesn't. And calls, throwing out open homosexuals a witch hunt. No, I'm sorry. If somebody just walking around committing homosexual acts like in porn or something, and you're going to just allow them in your congregation without any kind of reprimandment or disfellowshipping, then I don't know what to tell you. There's Muslim porn actors. There's Muslim porn actors with the Muslim sign on them.
What? What?
The moon and the crescent. Do you think there's not Muslim porn actors?
Well, I don't watch porn that much. I'm sure, a few of them must have fallen into porn, but the point is,
and who are still Muslim and call themselves Muslims. I'm a gay Muslim. I see it all the time. Gay Muslim porn, gay Muslim this, gay Muslim that.
Yeah, because there are no penalties. There are no social penalties for these things, so people aren't that bothered. But obviously, what I'm proposing is a change in a more stricter policing of morals from now on through the law,
through terror prophecies, and asking people to believe in divine revelation, prophets, messiahs, and
through saying, look, if you're tired of immigrants, you need to do something about your labor shortage, and you need to produce more indigenous people of the West to plug your labor shortages. And if you don't, it'll just get worse, and you'll be an aging, shrinking society, and the number of immigrants will increase, and you will eventually be taken over by Islam. But since you can't beat them, you might as well join them by respecting the institutions of marriage and the family again.
He's 4.
There.
Well, I would have to ask ethical pluralism. I know that it enforces child support, or at least the other one that I did enforced child support.
How many versions have you got now?
3. I have 3. 3 different religions I made from Matilda Ludendorff.
So what are they all called? Ethical pluralism?
No, one is called cosmic rationalism, one is called rational pluralism, one is called ethical pluralism.
Do you have a favorite?
Right now, I think ethical pluralism, because there was a little bit of unity in that rational pluralism that I weeded out. So,
okay, are you going to produce a 4th version?
Of course I will. I'll produce more versions. I like producing them. I like learning from them. I like trying to understand them.
Well, you'll have a job asking people which one they'd rather have and why, because they won't be reading these long essays, will they?
How do you know that nobody's going to read these long essays?
Yeah,
How do you know
because they
that?
can't take it seriously enough to read it.
Why? Why wouldn't they read it?
Well, you can't take it seriously enough to read it.
Excuse me, I am reading it, and I haven't found anything wrong with it yet. I don't know the whole thing. I'm not making a decision yet, but I mean, I am reading it myself, and other people have read it. I know that.
Okay, next time I will ask you questions about the 3 things, and then maybe you'll be able to pass the exam in it or something.
Well, I would, yeah.
Are we going to at least do that? Are we going to make you take it seriously enough?
I am taking it seriously enough to study it.
Okay, so next time you'll be coming up with a different version, or are you going to explain cosmic rationalism in more detail? You're going to be interviewed about which one is it you want? Ethical pluralism. Okay, so you're going to ignore cosmic rationalism and what's it? What plural? Rational pluralism.
Yeah,
Okay.
right now I'm focusing on ethical pluralism.
All right. And but what's the difference between the others, the other
One
two?
is
To
one is monistic. Cosmic rationalism is monistic. It's not pluralistic. And
what you
rational
mean? It
plur
has one word,
it has one power, one essence.
right? And then rational pluralism is what?
Rational pluralism is a pluralistic ideology, but after reading it a bit, it wasn't pluralistic enough. It had some unity in it, so I had to weed that out in ethical pluralism.
Okay. So you'll be stuck. You'll be reading all the essays generated by Grok and be able to explain it better to us next
Well,
time.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't know how much smarter I'll be next time. It is a weak point for me. It's like, some people are bad at physics, and, just because they can't understand physics doesn't mean that physics isn't some rational, coherent system. So just because I have a hard time, I'm metaphysically weak in that area. I'm not very good at that kind of stuff. So
We just need to know the rules. I mean, the belief
yeah,
system
well,
is.
there are rules. Yes, there are rules, and I know them. So I was able to get those rules. So I know the rules. So now I'm just trying to figure out why those rules are there. How did they get those rules? Why should I follow those rules? You know what I mean? There's
So
like,
how are the rules in cosmic rationalism and rational pluralism different to ethical pluralism?
well, they were very similar because they're all based on Matilda Ludendorff's philosophy. So they had similarities. Um,
Have they been
but
codified?
yes, ethical
Maybe you should
pluralism made
codify them.
They are. They're in a codex. I asked ethical pluralism to make a codex of laws that could be enforced by a court, and it did with punishments. And it had mild, moderate, severe, depending on how severe the crime was. And it gave different punishments. It gave different, you know, what you had to do.
Okay. We'll have a look at that. So, which punishments are most severe?
I would have to look at it, but I do have to go. So
Okay.
I will talk to you soon. Okay.
All righty.
Bye.
Thanks for coming. Bye.